it. All right, folks. Well, thanks for joining us with the Vantage Point at Mary Baldwin for Let's Do Lunch. Today, we're focusing on opportunities for our students that are studying business and pre-professional studies. So we're fortunate to have Blue Ridge Court Services, Blue Ridge Fine Properties, and Daikin Applied joining us today. And I'm going to let our guests introduce themselves.
Good morning. My name is Elena Sensible, and I work at Blue Ridge Court Services in Stanton, Virginia. We're a community corrections agency, and I'm a pretrial officer there.
Hi. Hey, good morning. I'm Shannon Harrington. I'm the principal broker and owner at Blue Ridge Fine Properties, and we are a real estate brokerage and have a sister company that does restorations called Queen City Concepts.
Hi, I'm Sarah Schilling. I also work with Blue Ridge Fine Properties with Shannon and as a purchaser specialist, and been doing that for a couple years. It's great.
Good afternoon. I'm Mark Jernell with Daikin Applied. I am a strategic sourcing manager located at our manufacturing facility in Verona. Daikin is the world's largest HVAC manufacturer.
Great. Well, thank you all for joining us. As you can see, we have quite a collection of internship and jobs represented here just right in the Stanton area. And if you would like a little more information about our panelists or to check out the questions we're going over, I've got that information in the chat for you. So I'll let you all self-select who's going to go first here. But tell us a little bit about how you ended up in your respective work, and was there a clear path or perhaps a more zigzag path that brought you where you are today?
Ladies first.
I can go first. That's fine. So I started at Blue Ridge Court Services 5 years ago as an intern while I was in my senior year at Bridgewater College. Before that, I thought I wanted to be a teacher. I went through a few teacher ed programs at Bridgewater and found out it was not my fit, and decided that I wanted to do something in social work. A few internships later, I ended up at Blue Ridge, and then Blue Ridge was my last internship, and I got hired on after graduation and have held multiple different roles at Blue Ridge since my hire date.
I'll go next. I had sort of more of a zigzag path. I did restaurant work for years, some childcare, stayed home with the kids a lot, and met Shannon a couple of years ago. And we were friends. I was doing a couple of other things for her, like some painting, some helping out with one of her Airbnbs. And after a couple of years of that, sort of just thought like, maybe I'll give real estate a shot. I talked to her about it. Wasn't really sure. I think it's not something I pictured myself doing, but I really like the way that she runs the brokerage. I really like the people. It's a really unique, cool collection of people, and I really just liked the sort of energy and the way that everybody does stuff here. And so I wanted to try and hop on and give it a shot. And Shannon said she would, you know, teach me the ropes and welcome me aboard. And I love it. I am super pleasantly surprised by how much I love it. I wasn't sure what to expect, but it's amazing. And so that's sort of how I ended up here.
I'll go next. So I graduated from high school in Charlottesville, and I went to VCU and studied acting and directing. And I was always the kid who, well, so I'm 51. So when I was a kid, we had shop and home ec. I don't know if they do that anymore, but I was always the one that was in the shop, building stuff and that sort of thing. And met with some weirdo things that would not be tolerated today, like I remember being in shop in 8th grade, and the teacher said, if you just keep it clean in here, we'll give you a B. And I was the only female, yeah, in there. So, but I got my degree in acting and directing, but I did a lot of building of sets, and I always liked that, and slid into historic restoration there in Richmond and design. I also did restaurant work at the same time. My son is now getting ready to be 26, which is crazy. So that was really awesome for me when he was little. And then continuing on with the design stuff. Got my license in 2005, thinking I would just kind of like do my own thing. I found that there were some pieces with the crew that I was working with doing restoration stuff. I found that there were some things that I thought maybe I could do a little bit better differently than the way that the agents were handling our sales. Just even like calling people back or whatever like that. And got my license thinking I would just kind of work in that little kind of crew. And then ended up working with other people, continuing on with the restoration stuff. In 2010, moved back to Charlottesville. And then when my son graduated high school and went off to William and Mary, I came over here and restarted the restoration company. And then and had the team at Remax. I was with Remax pretty much the whole time. And then in 2017, I moved the team to its own brokerage. So, and Sarah is very humble. She grew in dog years. There was a lot to learn for her because like, you know, like she wasn't super techie and she like picked it up really super fast. Her clients love her. She's crushing it and closing a lot of stuff, and it's a really good fit for her. But as far as the brokerage goes, I really handpick people. So like I think a lot of brokers that I'm friends with across the country are sort of like more people, the more chance that they're going to close something and you're going to get a cut of that commission. I see it as less people are less people that I have to manage and really interact with all the time. So all of my folks at the brokerage are hand chosen, and that keeps me a little bit more sane with the other stuff I have going on too. So everyone at the brokerage is awesome. So and not like a quantity over quality thing at all. So that's how we do stuff. And we're located in Stanton, but we go into Charlottesville over the mountain and up into Harrisonburg a little bit too. That's in our MLS as well. So thanks.
So my path was pretty straightforward. I was a business major in college. Well, first of all, I grew up in Virginia, grew up in Roanoke, went to college in Lynchburg at Liberty, and got my MBA from there as well. And my path into the business world was pretty straightforward because that was really my major, and I focused on finance. But I made HVAC, heating and air conditioning, my chosen field and my chosen path. I got into it because I was a soccer coach in my younger years, and one of the kids that I coached, his dad was a vice president of the company that I worked for 14 years, and asked me if I wanted to get into HVAC. And my first thought was, that doesn't sound real sexy, right? You know, it's just like, you know, what am I going to do with it, right? So, you know, I started out in sales and had a nice 6-year sales career, but wanted a little bit more. So I got into the world of supply chain. Some people would call it buying, procurement, different types of words for it. But so I've been in supply chain now for 8 years. So so my entire career has been primarily involved around HVAC. And it's been rather exciting. I'm a global strategic sourcing manager. So what I do is I find strategic partners to supply parts that make all of our heating and air conditioning equipment. So I've been able to travel the world. A year and a half ago, I was in Thailand, China, Malaysia, and Korea on one trip. It was awesome to learn all the different cultures and also different lean manufacturing methods. So, yeah, a lot of people when they're thinking about going to college, they think about business, but what part of business? So I think supply chain is really fun. You know, other than the early morning or late night telecalls overseas and things like that, I've been able to learn different cultures, learn some different languages bit by bit, just to make myself a little dangerous. But that's kind of how I got there. It was pretty clear, and I've enjoyed it. It's very challenging, and uh, every day I love what I do.
Well, thank you guys for sharing that. It sounds like we had a few straight shooters and a few more zigzag paths along the way. But it sounds like you all kind of touched on too, like your personal relationships. So tell us a little bit about any people that you would suggest our students follow or perhaps read any of their publications. So books, magazines, websites. If students want to learn more about your industry or your personal path to success, what are some things you recommend that they take in?
So for me, I just found this person recently on Instagram, of all places. Her name is Nedra Tawwab. I can provide you that information. Her last name's very long and hard to spell. But she has a book coming out soon about establishing boundaries, and it's helped me a lot in the last 2 years of my life, personally and professionally, just because I am an overachiever and was facing burnout. And so learning that early on and just kind of learning how to establish boundaries, standing up for myself with coworkers and with our clientele, we do work with a population that doesn't quite understand boundaries. So they don't understand that they can't reach me 24 hours a day. They're not to ask about my family, things like that, just trying to learn those and be able to keep those established. So she's really just following her on Instagram, and I'm looking forward to her book that's coming out. So I would be happy to share that with you all.
Yeah, if you don't mind dropping her name in the chat, that would be great. Thank you.
I love that. I think that, yeah, I'm interested in her too. So we have like 4 or 5 books that I have people read, and they are required, and I will send them back to those books if we have issues with those things. I mean, I think what you're saying is really important. I mean, things have changed a lot even in the past like 10 years where people, I've gotten 5 texts since we're talking, and those people are like, I sent you a text, what are you doing? Like, the instant response thing is super toxic, honestly. Like, there's nobody I think of out there that's talking or thinking about this that doesn't think that the sort of flow for immediate response is unhealthy in our world. So to establish that stuff with people, and it is tough. I mean, I think if you're in a service industry too, which is like a little bit less office based, I think we want people to feel like we're really good friends. Like we connect with them. We like learn about all their stuff, and we chat with them a lot. But I've literally had folks that are stay-at-home parents that I know they're home all day, and I know they'll tell me that their kids napped at from 2 to 5, but then they want to talk about whatever's on their mind at 9:30 at night. That doesn't work for me. I'm in bed. So how do we express this stuff to people, so that sort of having that boundary and being able to, for lack of a better way to say it, because it sounds kind of bad, like train folks into what this process is. This is a professional relationship that's really friendly. And we're here, like, if we have a nurse on like an overnight shift or, whatever like that, like we'll be there at their time on their terms. But in general, this is a process management thing, and we're matchmakers and we are professional negotiators and that kind of thing. And in an industry that has really become this sort of 24/7, like, I'm here for you, like they don't do it so much anymore, but I think for a while there, in like 2008, 2009, you'd see a lot of people in real estate with their phone and they'd be like, call me anytime. And it's like, oh, that actually leads to like a lot of workaholism, and it's real. Like it's hard. Like I feel that myself. If I hop in the pool at the Y, like I get out and I'm like, I probably have so many messages. Like that is actually bad for us. So I love that book recommendation, and I'll definitely check it out. But the one that I recommend and actually require, because I hand pick and I hand mentor or personally mentor everybody, there are books that they have to read, and that we meet and talk about. And one of those is called Codependent No More. And that's kind of like the Bible, like the beginning of the codependency talk about that. So that I think that becomes really, really important, especially for folks who are entering into the professional world, to kind of understand those parameters. Also, ninja selling is something that is one of our Bibles. You attract the business that works for you. That is in your wheelhouse and according to your core values, but you got to figure out your core values first, right? So then you kind of know. So it's some of that homework, I think. So it depends if people want to be great employees, which that's available, and an awesome option. But entrepreneurship is a little bit different. You can have entrepreneurship qualities in an employee situation, but there's not a whole lot of employees in the entrepreneurship situation in the beginning until you kind of get your sea legs and understand your process and how you work with that. So anyway, those two are kind of the beginnings. And then if people are in the entrepreneurship track, I always recommend Rich Dad Poor Dad. That is a book that talks about the difference between being rich and being wealthy, and how to understand and navigate those paths and deal with building your empire. So, thanks.
I
Yeah.
personally
Oh,
oh,
sorry.
go ahead. We'll keep the same
I was just
order.
gonna
I'm sorry.
hop on with the boundaries. Codependent No More has been a really big one for me. I read that before real estate many years ago, and then again, I think I've passed through that twice now since I've started and lent it out to someone. But it really, really was shocking to me how difficult it was sort of for me to step back and draw those lines where I just, I wanted to be available. I wanted to, get people what they wanted. I wanted to be helpful. I was really, frankly, having a problem saying no, and feeling guilty about that, and things like that. So it really was a lot of work for me to remind myself that, like, not everybody gets access to me all the time. I have, a time where I at night just won't look at the phone anymore or check emails. It's kind of late, but it's in place. And yeah, so I think and that's one I'm going to have to retouch on too, because I think it's easy to kind of get swept away and to have to bring yourself back and be like, okay, and you will get burnout. It's a lot. It can feel like a lot of people wanting a lot of access to you. And unintentionally, it's not even, no one's even trying to like steal your life away. I think if you don't put up really clear boundaries, you can just get swept away. So that's been a really big one for me.
And if I can just hop back on that super quick, when you're working for yourself, people think that you're just hanging out.
Mm-hmm.
So also it's family, friends. I think a lot of people, when they started working from home, started seeing this stuff, that those of us who don't like stand behind the thing as a bank teller from 9 to 5 or whatever. And that's because, if you're a bank teller, you can't be on your phone, like chatting to people about their date last night. Like you're at work. So how do you establish that you're at work for people who think that you're just like, doing whatever you want? And one of those things that we use in the office is time blocking. So I time block everything, and then I am the soldier to my time blocking. So that really works with the boundaries too. And I keep my read receipts on for my texts. So people sort of get trained that if they haven't seen that I read it, that I'm doing something else, and I tell them that too. But this is a big thing, not just with kind of trying to help understand or help clients understand that Sunday night, you probably don't need that Sunday night phone call. It might be an email, um, or a Monday morning chat. So how do we navigate this without being a jerk? And I think that's like a lot of inner work, because also our friends and family want us 24/7 as well. So just kind of that. And it's all the same answer. It's our own personal connection with that. So I'm sorry, I didn't mean to jump on you there.
That's all good. And Jamal, I see you have a question. We're going to let Mark give some recommendations and then we'll get right to you, okay?
Um,
All right, sounds
for
great.
myself, every the last week of the year between Christmas and New Year, I always read the book Seven Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. I've used this book as a guide for me in my professional growth as the years have gone on. I think it's a must read for anyone in any field, not just business, just in any field, because you can be effective in any type of career that you may choose. Um, I'll also add, I'm a big reader, so I've got like tons of books, but anything by Jim Collins, Good to Great, Built to Last, those are two excellent books as well. And then my final recommendation would be How to Lead When You're Not in Charge. Okay, so everybody's not the boss, the big dog in an organization, but everyone, in my opinion, has leadership skills. They just need to be brought out and brought to the table. And I think this book is an excellent one to do that, to unlock that leadership potential that I think everyone has. So those are my books. I also will say that when you're talking about leadership, I'm a servant leader. So another book called Humble Leadership is another good one. But that's just my personal style, is to lead by example and be humble, because there's not enough humility in the world these days, and so we need more humble leaders.
Yes, and I can attest that you're a fan of the Seven Habits of Highly Effective People. I actually did the LGA classes and received that book. So I have your autograph and your note in that on my bookshelf at home, which is super cool. I'm going to drop that humble leadership here. But in the meantime, I think Jamal Carter, who's one of our Mary Baldwin students joining us today, has a question. Jamal, it's all you.
Hello, how you guys doing?
Great.
So what's funny is I actually am an entrepreneur. Everything that you guys are saying is kind of like pertaining to what I'm doing. But my actual question is, how much like discipline does it take for you to like actually want to sit down and read the book? You know, because as a college student, as by the time I wake up, my day is like almost gone for real, for real. So like, how much discipline does it take?
I think you have to want to read it, right? You have to um, for me, set certain times of the day to read. Um, I know that, for me, my day starts, 7 a.m. I've been working from home for the past year because of COVID. So my day starts pretty early, but I think you have to carve out time. First of all, you have to want to do it. So that means you're going to have to want to learn more, and then carve out time. Even if it's just 15 minutes to a half an hour a day to read one chapter, just read one chapter, and then take it from there. But you have to want to do it, and you have to set time.
I think that's true. I also think that audiobooks are great. So
Mhm.
it's not the same as reading, but I can hop it out of my car when I'm cruising somewhere. I have this weird thing, and like, so we all have these like resistances and or obstacles that pop up. I hear that you're really busy, Jamal, and that's like, I totally get that. Personally, I get up around 7:30. I don't communicate with the outside world until after 9. So I take that morning piece so that I can kind of center up, get a shower, whatever I'm going to do. So I don't feel like I'm hopped up and jump straight to the service of other people, because that's a recipe for burnout too with me. So get some coffee, um, hang out, but definitely sneaking it in, and think of it, with your entrepreneurship mind, Jamal, as like food for your um, goals and for your process. So like what you're learning in school is awesome, but also like once you kick those on and you're like in the car, you got it on your headset or whatever, and you take 15 minutes, you're going to start getting excited, I think, if that's really what's in your heart. And you're going to be like, man, I had to kick that off because I had to walk into class, but I can't wait to hear where they were going with that or whatever. So audiobooks are a friend. Most people have those little ear pods when you're walking across campus or whatever, just turn it on and maximize your time like that. And so this is a really good piece, or a really good like part of, that might be the time that your friend texted you and you think like you have to text them back or whatever. Not right now. I'm gonna take this 15 minutes and listen to my book, because like this is really interesting stuff. This is how to do what I'm trying to do. I say I'm an entrepreneur. This is what entrepreneurs do. So the people that I know that are killing it in this gig are the ones that read a lot, that take notes, that share, that are in service, like we're just, and very generous with that kind of information. And there's a ton of great books, and they're pretty much all an audiobook. So, you're at the gym, be listening, whatever you're doing. Because it is hard to sit down with a book. I fall asleep anymore. Um, so, but don't, when you have those obstacles pop up, quit, man. You're an entrepreneur. Find that solution. What am I going to do to overcome this? That's what we do. That's the entire job, whatever you're doing in entrepreneurship. So you can do it.
I think some great advice there. And one thing I've heard recently, Jamal, is also to like partner it with another habit that you already have. So obviously don't feel like you have to read a full book every day, but like time blocking has been suggested, making sure that you're setting aside these times for yourself to invest in yourself. So maybe it's like Mondays and Fridays for half an hour, I'm going to do some reading and outreach. So you can set aside time like that. Or if you, like Shannon was saying, if you're already walking, if you're already going to the gym, pop in the audio book. That's another great way to digest it. All right. So this one came directly from one of our students too. And I think you guys represent a lot of different industries here. So knowing that all companies don't have the same dress code, what is your stance on being professionally developed, and what does a dress code look like at your place of employment?
So for my office, a lot of ours is run around, we have to be in court. So if you walk into court in your pajamas, the judge is going to throw you out that morning. And so we basically, even on our days that we don't have court, we're expected to dress like we had to go to court. For men, it's usually suit and jacket and tie. Females usually wear dresses or slacks and a blouse. Of course, there's days where you can wear a polo. We have Blue Ridge Court Services polos, that kind of stuff. But we also are expected to be, somebody's out sick, we have to go cover court coverage. We need to be ready to go just in case, or something got added on the docket. My best suggestion is always to have a blazer nearby. I keep 2 in my office. That way I'm ready to roll if something happens.
All right. How about team real estate? What is the dress code there?
It's funny because a couple of years ago we had one of our agents was going to the pool a lot, and I was teasing her. I was like, "Come down here," looking like Mrs. Howell walking in the office with a, you know. I think that when people are, and I'm kind of like, I mean, I guess this is corny and but I think people would think I'm sort of like bohemian style or whatever. Like I don't do the blazer. I don't do that stuff. Um, but be clean, really like take a minute, for young women, you're not in school anymore. So like you're wanting to think of it as a costume, right? So if you are reaching out to someone and you're going to be talking to them about helping them manage a couple $100,000 or that kind of thing, you don't want to look like you're at the club. You don't want to look like, you know what I mean? Like people who are older are just going to be like, oh man, why is your bra strap? Like, what is going on? Like, are we on a date or like what, So make sure that you're costume for what the image that you want to present and kind of know what you can get away with. And that has to do with being really, really good at what you do. But definitely I would say, I was a restaurant manager and we were all really casual. And then a consultant came in. This is when I was like 23 and the owner didn't care, but really that's why he needed a consultant. And he was like, Shannon, you're a restaurant manager. Like you can't really wear those ripped up jeans. But that was what we all did. And I was like, oh man, like I never thought about that. So, commanding respect. For us, we don't wear blazers. We don't do that kind of thing. But you want to like not draw people's attention away from your competence. And I think that I have seen a couple situations where I'm like, oh, do you have something to put over that? And this is kind of me body policing women, it sounds like, and I don't mean to, but when we think about costuming, just think about what you're putting out there, because the job that you have, if part of it is to elicit confidence from people around a really important thing that they're already nervous about, they really don't want to be thinking about that. So that's kind of how, would you say that's right, Sarah?
I would say that's right. I think most of us in the office, some of us are spiffier than others. But for me, I'm pretty relaxed and casual, clean and covered. But I think I don't really want people to be thinking about like what I'm wearing or as a distraction, like, what my clothes are like. So I tend to be pretty just like plain, neutral, sweaters, comfortable. I'm also not gonna, sometimes we need to go walk 5 acres too. So it's that too. Like you need to know when you need like a bunch of sweaters and a great jacket, and maybe you need your mucking boots because you're gonna be out and the ground is soggy and you're gonna, be outside for an hour with people. So I think also too, knowing where you're going, who you're gonna be with, what the task of the day looks like. But generally, I'm pretty casual. I want to look like myself too. I don't really want to feel like I am playing pretend. So that's sort of my approach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Mark, what is the dress code there at Daikin? And I guess, has it changed too? Because you mentioned you're mostly working from home. What is in office versus work from home attire?
Sure. So, my every day I started the same routine, even as I was working from home. So it's get up, put on your work clothes, and then come downstairs to the home office. And I've maintained that. Now, have I gotten a little lax? Sure, but I still wear, dress pants, and that type of thing. At Daikin, we generally have a business casual look. So polos and, dress pants for the guys, ladies, the dress pants. You don't have to wear pantsuits or dresses. That's entirely up to them. But I would call it just an overall business casual environment, which yeah, I think works well, and I think a lot of companies, whether Fortune 500 companies or small companies, are doing that. But to echo what some of the other ladies said was you don't want to detract from what you're trying to do. That's the biggest thing, you know. And I think that's really important. Just be professional in what you do and how you dress, but just don't take away from you as a person and in your job, because people can get distracted pretty quickly by your appearance.
And if I could follow back up with that, part of my job, I used to have to go into Middle River Regional Jail every day. And so part of that was being dressed appropriately and safely for myself in the jail with a number of inmates every morning. So closed-toe shoes, didn't wear jewelry when I worked my job at the jail and things like that. So a lot of it for our office is just personal safety of that person that's going into the jail.
And I will say here too that people are awesome and they're also kind of crazy. So it doesn't take much for a male client to start being inappropriate, or a man, you know what I mean? Like you never want to like lead in any way that that's what you're looking for, or that's, and I know again, this is like walking a line on what people are talking about today, but just for our own protection and for our own, you know, I never wear shoes that I can't run in. If a dog's chasing me on some property, I never, you know what I mean? So just like thinking about things that way, to look smart, to look put together, but you don't want to put those kinds of thoughts in people's minds, because just being almost like, you know, there's been times that I dress like a truck driver and I still get inappropriate text messages from people that I met, and I'm just like, oh man, now now we can't work together, you know? So as women, I do think that what are we trying to put out? So, you know, on what you were saying, Alana, or Elena, sorry. Definitely being mindful of not participating in that kind of flow, too. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think what you all are touching on is, when in doubt, perhaps go dressier and more conservative, you know, with maybe your jewelry or how much you're covering yourself. But also be comfortable, right? Like we're talking about closed-toed shoes, being able to take a jog in case there's a not friendly dog in the neighborhood. So yeah. And then I think all of you work in places where there might be, you know, different levels of management or responsibilities. So how do folks at your company view professional development? And are there differences between like your corporate leadership or your managers and some of the folks that might be getting paid an hourly wage or just getting started in your career path?
So for our office, we have a director, and her name is Megan Brown, and she's fantastic. She took over after our previous director was there for 23 years, so she's been doing a great job since he left about 2 years ago. Our office is very unique because we all work together, but we also work independently at the same time. We're expected to show up, do our job, but then we also support each other. My director carries a caseload. Not many people in our type of work do the head person carry a caseload, but she's continuously carried a caseload. And so she's still with us all throughout the entire time. So it's really nice to have that support, and that there's not a detachment from management to us people who work with the clients on a regular basis.
I'm not sure I really understood your question. Sorry, Lindsay.
Okay, me too.
No, that's all good.
I was winging it.
Yeah. No, you did great. So it was sourced from a student, and I kind of interpreted it too. But it sounds like in all of the jobs that are represented, there's different levels of what tasks are done or who might be making final decisions. So when you're thinking about leadership in your company and the professional development and responsibilities that come with that, what are the expectations, and how do you communicate with people that might be working on an hourly basis versus the person at the top making the decisions versus some of the middle managers there in between. Does that help?
Yeah, and so I think it depends. I mean, with a construction company, that's a totally different thing, right? So that's I'm the boss and it's all guys. Um, so that's a little bit different than how I speak with the agents. Um, is that what you mean? Like, you know, they're on a roof. Like they don't want to get this long text message that's like, you know, me just babbling into Siri. Like they need to know what I want. They need to know now, and then they need me to follow it up with a piece of paper, and be very blunt. When an agent is having a problem with someone, that's more of a discussion that sort of teases out the actual problem so that it teases out the actual solution. So I think that's for me, that's kind of two different hats that I wear. And then when it comes down to the tenants, I'm a little bit more with them like I am with contractors. Like I'm friendly with them, but we don't do a lot of chatting usually. I like them all. Same with the Airbnb. Like it's just kind of different hats that you wear depending on. But we don't have anyone right now that. No, that's not true. We have Kirsten. Kirsten works with us hourly. She's our graphics design guru. She does all of our social media. She does a lot of database management and she does marketing stuff. And our relationship is like that I am the head of a magazine and she's like the person that does it all. So we collaborate a lot and we're just really mindful of each other's feelings. We kind of like in our company, and I tell the agents this too, like when you're dealing with our agents, you're always dealing with someone new, or most of the time, right? It's not like the kind of job where you go in and you like know the 4 people that you work with. The construction company can be a little bit like that because I know like, you know, so-and-so comes in at 7:30, but he leaves at 2:30 because he's got twins and, you know, and then there's like the guy that goes out and smokes a cigarette at 11 and talks to his wife because she's on second shift for a half, you know, you kind of get to know people. But in real estate, the other agent is not really always like that. So I always approach people with a really soft touch. Real estate agents are under an intense amount of pressure, so it's really easy to for them to get defensive. Sometimes if you're just like asking them a normal thing, they feel like really they woke up at the end of their rope. So we really sort of like take that into consideration, and when we ask or communicate things, we kind of frost it on the front end. So I do think that it's a lot about sort of, again, knowing your audience, knowing who you're talking to and what you're trying to accomplish by that conversation. But I've had folks that work with us on an hourly basis that didn't work out because they couldn't leave stuff at the door. All of a sudden I became their mom or their counselor or whatever. And that can get super stressful too. And that I own that as part of my karma. So if I see something starting to go in that direction, honestly, from a management perspective, I'll stop asking people how they're doing. Like, I'm not going to ask you how you're doing today. I'm just going to say, how's it going with blah, blah, blah. And that's like my own. So I think it's always being receptive to what the flow is, what's happening, because I do think that was a mistake that I was making when things got into a situation before where people couldn't leave their drama, for lack of a better way to say it, at the door, because I was fostering them being too comfortable with it, thinking that it was a temporary thing that they were going through, but then it became like a flow in the office, and then I had to let them go, and that was you know. So I do think that we're always learning too, based on what our participation is and things that end up not working out well or whatever. So I'm not sure if that answers your question, but maybe.
I think so. And I think Jamal has another question, but Mark, we would love to hear from you too, because I'm sure you interact with a variety of different folks, you know, whether they're on your team at Daikin or vendors you might be trying to broker a deal with. So how do you kind of manage those different relationships, and do you interact with folks differently based on that relationship?
Yes and no. I kind of had a different prepared thought in my mind about this question because I did read the questions coming in. First of all, in viewing professional development, it's something that Daikin as a company expects of us, we have to make our own IDP, internal development plan. So so that's something that we do, and in process it happens, every year. So it could change, or we could add layers to it. So that's important. But how I interact with people, yeah, it's different. Like when I go out on the manufacturing floor, you've got a wide array of different types of people, right? So, first of all, I want to let them know that I'm on the same plane as they are, right? I put my pants on the same way. I go to the same types of restaurants and all that kind of stuff, and go to the grocery store and that type of thing. So, so my conversations with the people out on the manufacturing floor are a little bit different than somebody I would talk to in engineering, because we're talking about totally different things. But the overall premise for me is that I treat everyone the same and give them the same respect, and that's key for me, is make sure that when you're talking to someone that you give them the respect that they deserve. Because I've been on the receiving end where I didn't get that respect, and then I want to immediately shut down and just tune it all out. So you have to get that level playing field. Also, when you're talking, I had to talk to a supplier from Italy this morning, and you have language barriers at times, so you have to be really in tune as to how you speak with them. We're doing video calls, Zoom calls, that type of thing. You have to make sure those facial expressions are neutral, as much as possible, so that you're conveying the right message. The voice deflection, the tone, it has to be a certain way. Now, again, you're going to have issues, that could upset someone. So there's going to be that deflection there. But overall, I think the goal for me is to always speak with respect, and be a good listener, because I think sometimes we can talk too much when we should be really dialed into who we're speaking to. I hope that kind of answers the question.
Yeah, I think so. And I think you bring up an interesting point, like really, regardless of what your position might be in a company, it's important to set aside time for listening and gathering feedback, as much as it is to perhaps give direction and follow up with people. So I think, Jamal, did you raise your hand with another question?
Oh yeah. I'm actually who came up with the question. I'm sorry if I made it confusing, but I just wanted to see people's different perspectives on how they view business in their specialized area. So I have a concept now of generally of how businesses do different things. So I appreciate.
No, no problem. That's awesome.
Do you mind if I ask Jamal, what are you looking to, what's your, what are you driving toward when you graduate?
I'm a junior now, so I'm supposed to be I'm majoring in marketing, but I own an entrepreneur business, a clothing business. So what I want to do, I'm a black small owned business, so I wanted to, gravitate going towards the next level, seeing the bigger picture, and not, looking at this as like just a side hustle in a sense.
Nice. I was just curious. Awesome.
And Jamal, if you get a chance, feel free to drop your company website or Instagram in the chat, because I'm sure these folks participating would love to check it out today.
Mhm,
Yeah, absolutely. Love to see it.
definitely.
Yeah. And we are coming to the end of our hour, folks. So we didn't get through all the questions, but of course, because it's Let's Do Lunch, tell us what is something you like to whip up for yourself or one of your favorite local restaurants that you visit and what you order there.
I have been on a big Gloria's kick. I love Gloria's. My youngest daughter is also obsessed with the pupusas there, so that's been my most recent favorite lunch place, is to just order a couple of pupusas, eat them at home. They're delicious.
I like the 101 bowls, lots of variety there. I bought some gift certificates for $10 each, like, I don't know how, like $150 worth or something. And I just sent them out to people who I've had a good conversation with or that kind of thing too. So, but I like them a lot. Chicano Boy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the Pampered Palate. It's a quick and easy place to go grab a sandwich in between court, and it's right there next to one of the courts that we have to go to all the time. So most of our staff ends up there a couple of times a week.
Yeah, I'm big on Chicano Boy as well. That place rocks. And
Yep.
I also like it's out near Murphy Deming, actually. It's a place called Just a Kitchen, and they do bowls. I guess bowls are the big craze now. But yeah, the fact that I'm not eating bread now is kind of making me change a lot the way I think and eat. But yeah, those are two of my favorites, for lunch.
Well, thank you guys so much for joining us today. Feel free to impart some last words of wisdom, but I really appreciate you coming and representing yourself and your employer for our students today. And of course, got to plug Mr. Carter. His website and Instagram are there in the chat if you guys get a chance to check them out.
Nice. Yep,
Thank
we'll
you
check
so
it out.
much.
Yeah,
Thanks for inviting us.
Jamal, definitely stay hungry. Continue to work hard at Mary Baldwin. You picked a great university to attend. All my best to you. If you ever need any advice, anything, please feel free to shoot me an email. Always happy to chat, but really excited for you in your entrepreneurship. We need more of that. People like you to make this world better.
Yep.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right, folks. Well, have a great week, and I will send you guys the link once this gets uploaded to our channel, okay? Thanks so
Awesome.
much.
For the invite.
Thanks, Lindsay.
Nice to meet y'all. Yeah.
Yeah,
Have a
nice to
great
meet
day.
everyone. Take care.
Yeah.
See ya.
Bye.